Ellis stood in the middle of my living room, zipping up the matching suitcases I gave him last Christmas. I still remembered the grin on his face when he unwrapped them. "Perfect for all our future trips, Mom," he'd said. I'd chosen them carefully. Lightweight, durable, elegant. They looked out of place now, too new for a woman who wouldn't be going anywhere. Dana walked in from the hallway, holding a packing list, and clearly in charge. "It's too crowded already," she said, without looking at me. "The kids need space to sleep, and Mike's parents are coming too. You wouldn't be comfortable anyway." I'd heard it before, just not quite this cold. My overnight bag was already by the door. I had packed it the night before just in case. A few sundresses, my walking sandals, and a new paperback I'd been saving for the beach. I hadn't said anything yet. I wanted to believe there would be room this year. I bent down, unzipped the bag, and started putting things back in the closet one by one, slowly, so they wouldn't hear the zipper shake in my hands. "Are you sure you'll be okay here?" Ellis asked, glancing up from the bags, but not quite meeting my eyes. I nodded. "Of course. I've got the garden. I might repaint the porch." I forced a light laugh. "And I'll finally finish that puzzle Mia gave me." Dana's phone buzzed. "The car is ready," she said. "We need to go if we want to beat traffic." They left with hugs that felt more like habits. The door closed behind them with a soft finality. I stood alone in the hallway, looking at the empty space where my bag had been. I didn't cry. Not anymore. Instead, I went to the bookshelf and pulled out an old photo from our first family trip to the coast. Ellis was 6. He had sand in his teeth and sunburn on his cheeks. He'd begged me not to let him go back to school. Now he couldn't wait to leave me behind. Every March, it's the same call. "Hi, Mom. Listen, we wanted to check in. It's just that things are really tight again this year. You know how many bags we have to pack with the kids? And Dana's parents are already booked into the other room at the rental. Maybe next year, honey." Click. I'd barely get a word in before the script finished. I always said the same thing, too. "Of course I understand. Have a great time." It had become a tradition in itself, me making excuses for being forgotten. I stopped deleting the photos Dana posted. Now I saved them. The bonfires, the kids roasting marshmallows, Ellis holding a beer, shirt half buttoned, Olivia, their youngest, buried in sand up to her chin while everyone laughed. Dana tagging everyone but me. The first year I set the table anyway, just in case. I made their favorite pasta, baked those maple scones Ellis used to sneak from the counter before they cooled. I even bought sparklers, thinking maybe they'd stop by on the way home. They didn't. By the third summer, I stopped cooking. But I still cleaned the house from top to bottom because something in me needed to prepare for the impossible, to feel like if they had shown up, they'd know I was ready. The 6th summer, I stood outside the house with a bag of trash and saw a van driving by. For a moment, I swore it was theirs. Same roof rack, same stickers on the bumper, but it turned the corner without stopping. I sat on the porch that night with a cup of lukewarm coffee and watched the sun dip behind the trees. I didn't even finish the drink. By the 7th summer, the silence didn't sting the same. It didn't ache like it used to. It settled like dust in corners no one cares to clean. I had started making peace with being invisible. But then in September, something changed. Someone told me what Dana really thought of me. It happened on a Tuesday in the laundromat off River Road. I was folding towels when Myra approached me. We hadn't seen each other in over a year. Second cousins, close enough to know birthdays, distant enough not to speak unless we crossed paths like this. She smiled politely, hesitated, then said, "I ran into Dana at the farmer's market last week." I nodded, waiting. "I asked her if you were coming on the vacation this year." Myra tucked a sock into a bundle of shirts. She laughed and said, "Amy just seems tired, not really up for travel anymore." My hands paused mid-fold. I stared at the fabric, willing it not to wrinkle, tired. I once slept on Dana's living room couch for 3 nights straight when she was drowning in postpartum. I scrubbed formula stains off her carpet, ran errands, and held the baby through entire nights while she cried herself hollow in the bathroom. Tired was when I'd rocked Olivia to sleep at 2 a.m. so Dana could get 4 hours of rest. Tired was when I canceled a work trip to make chicken soup for her flu. Now apparently I'm just tired. I smiled politely at Myra and finished folding my towels. "Thanks for telling me," I said. She looked like she wanted to say more, but I turned away before she could. Back home, I found the old Christmas card I'd written last year. It had a snow-covered cabin on the front, glittery and cheerful. Inside, my handwriting was careful, sweet. Wishing you all the warmth and joy this season can bring. Love always, Mom. I never sent it. I tossed it into the fireplace without thinking and watched the flames take it in one clean breath. That night, I opened my laptop and started researching Riverside properties. Not to compete, just to breathe. Just to be somewhere no one would talk about me like I was some fragile ghost in the room. The next morning, I called a realtor. The coffee had gone cold by the time I finished the first page of results. Riverside property for sale, North Carolina. That's all I'd typed. I hadn't meant it seriously at first. It started as a thought, something to fill the space where disappointment usually lived. But the more I scrolled, the more I imagined what it would feel like to open a door and know every inch of that space belonged to me. Not borrowed, not begged for, not denied, just mine. Most listings were too big, too flashy, or too run down. But then one photo stopped me. A simple place. 12 rooms, 2 acres, an old wooden dock out back, and willows leaning over the edge like tired dancers. The kind of property no one brags about, but remembers forever once they've been. It reminded me of a place my aunt used to take me when I was little. The same aunt who left me a modest inheritance when she passed last year. I hadn't touched it, not because I didn't need it, but because I didn't know what I was allowed to dream for myself until now. I clicked schedule viewing, just like that. No fireworks, no dramatic music, just the quiet click of a mouse and a door opening somewhere in my heart. I didn't call Ellis. I didn't tell anyone. This wasn't about revenge or proving anything. It wasn't about Dana or her backhanded smile. It wasn't even about the vacations they'd taken without me. It was about something else entirely. I wanted to walk into a space and not wonder if I belonged there. I wanted to build something where no one had to ask if there was enough room. I wanted to breathe without asking permission. 2 days later, I drove out to see the place. The air smelled like moss and morning sun, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like someone's forgotten guest. I felt like a woman with a key in her hand. 3 months later, I stood in the center of the gravel path that wound through Wildflower Bend Resort. 12 rooms, hand-painted signs, riverside hammocks that swayed like a secret only nature knew. I had the canoes cleaned and lined up by the dock, and every guest received a welcome basket with homemade peach jam and postcards stamped with the resort's name. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't loud, but it was mine. I didn't post about it. I didn't need to prove anything. Instead, I made a quiet list. People who had shown up when no one else did. Mrs. Keating from down the street, who brought soup every week during my chemo. Lisa, the nurse who sat with me through those endless IV drips, not because she had to, but because she cared. Harold from the old office, who once mailed me a book with a note that said, "You're still more than this moment." They were the ones I called. No one asked who wasn't invited. I hosted a soft opening over Labor Day weekend. The dining porch overlooked the river, and we ate grilled trout and corn salad by candlelight while crickets chirped in the background. There was laughter, real and low, not performative, not posed for a holiday card. When I walked through the grounds at dusk, I heard someone say, "This place feels like a breath you didn't know you were holding." I let that line stay with me. Ellis didn't call. Dana didn't text. There were no questions about the resort, no offers to visit. And oddly enough, that was fine. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for permission to be proud. The rooms were fully booked for fall. I spent mornings walking the perimeter trail with coffee in hand, pausing by the overlook where the river widened, steady and sure. It was late afternoon. The sun stretched long across the porch, and the phone buzzed beside my half-empty mug of coffee. Ellis. I hadn't heard from him in months, not since that last spring call with Dana's cheerful excuse. I almost didn't answer, but habit has a way of pressing accept, even when the heart doesn't. "Hey, Mom," he said, voice tighter than usual. "Listen, Dana's parents canceled last minute. Some emergency back home." I waited. "So we've got the kids all packed. We were wondering if maybe you had a room at that river place of yours, just for a few nights?" I turned my gaze to the view in front of me, the row of cars parked neatly, guests laughing down by the dock, hammocks swaying gently in the breeze. Every room was full. Every name on the ledger was someone who had shown up for me when no one else had. I could have made room, maybe, but I wouldn't. I kept my voice warm, the way I used to when he was little and scraped his knees. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," I said softly. "But just like your house, mine's full too." There was a long silence on the other end. Not angry, just quiet, like something had finally landed. "Oh," he said. "Right. No, I understand." I heard Dana in the background asking something sharp. He didn't answer her. "Well, hope it's going well," he added before hanging up. I sat there a while longer, letting the quiet settle back around me. The breeze off the water didn't sting. The rejection didn't echo. For once, I didn't feel like I was shutting the door. I was simply holding it for someone else and deciding who got to walk through. The photo went up Sunday night. Cousin Marlene, sun hat tilted, glass of lemonade in hand, beaming on the dock beside her husband. The caption read, "Best weekend ever at Wildflower Bend. Thank you, Amy." By morning, I had 5 missed calls and 3 texts from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. A few polite, a few nosy, one downright indignant. But it was Ellis's message that came through while I was folding linens in the staff cabin. Ellis: "I didn't know your resort was that big, Mom, and yet there wasn't even a single room for your son's family." I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Me: "There was only room there for those who remembered who their mother was." No dots typing, no reply. And honestly, I didn't expect one. The truth wasn't something I owed anyone. For 7 years, I was the forgotten +1. Sometimes, not even that. They made their decisions. They closed their doors. And now that mine had opened for someone else, they couldn't understand why they weren't first in line. I walked through the resort that afternoon with a quiet sort of peace. Marlene's post had sparked a chain reaction. Messages from extended family asking if I was taking reservations, if I had time for a chat, if we could reconnect. I responded to none of them, because what I had built wasn't just about a riverfront or hammocks or fire pits. It was about finally having enough space, emotionally, spiritually, even physically, to not beg for inclusion anymore. That evening, I hosted a bonfire for the weekend guests. We roasted marshmallows and shared stories. One of the teenagers played guitar, while the little ones danced barefoot in the grass. I watched the flames flicker and thought about the years I spent staring at photos from someone else's summer. Now they were staring at mine. And for the first time, I didn't feel small for being left out. I felt solid for choosing to stay out. But as the fire burned low, Myra came to sit beside me. "There's something else," she said quietly, "and you're not going to like it." Last Thanksgiving, I brought cranberry relish and pumpkin bread, both untouched. Dana had made her own versions. The turkey was carved before I arrived, and by the time I sat down, only a folding chair in the kitchen remained. I remember balancing my plate on my knees, trying to smile while my grandson spilled juice, and no one noticed. Ellis never said a word. This year, the equation looked different. Ellis's family is 6. My old dining table seats 8. But Wildflower Bend, we built long tables beneath strings of warm lights that swayed above the Riverside fire pit. I hired a local chef who slow-roasted duck with orange glaze and set out platters of garlic butter potatoes, cornbread, and grilled vegetables. 18 guests, real chairs, real place settings, real space for everyone who had shown up, even when I had nothing to give. I watched as Harold helped his wife into her seat, as little Emily from the Martinez family passed rolls to her cousins, as laughter bounced between the trees and the fire cracked like applause. Nobody asked where Ellis and Dana were, and I didn't volunteer. They hadn't called. Maybe they thought I'd be waiting again. Maybe they assumed I'd still be hoping for space at their table. Or maybe, finally, they realized I wasn't going to pull up my folding chair anymore. I served the duck with steady hands, poured cider for the kids, and clinked glasses with neighbors turned family. When someone toasted me, I didn't deflect, I just smiled. After dinner, the kids ran by the river's edge, chasing shadows with sparklers, while the adults sat back with coffee and stories. The air was crisp, but the fire burned warm. And as I leaned back in my seat, I realized something strange. I didn't feel like I'd taken anyone's place. I had made one. It wasn't a text this time, it was a call. I saw Dana's name light up on the screen while I was stacking mugs in the kitchen cabin, getting ready for the December bookings. I nearly let it ring out, but something, curiosity maybe, made me swipe. "Hi, Amy," she said. No tightness, no sugar, just my name, plain. I think I was wrong about a lot of things. I leaned on the counter, letting the quiet settle. "I judged you," she continued. "Not just about the vacations, about everything. I assumed you didn't want to come. I assumed you were tired, distant, or just uninterested. I offered. I said gently. She paused. Yes, and I think that made it easier not to ask. Another pause. I saw the photos from Thanksgiving. My cousin forwarded them, and I realized something. Your table looks a lot warmer than the ones I've been setting. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence between us. I waited. I want to bring the kids, Dana said. Not for a holiday, just a visit. Just to see the river. Stay a night or two. As guests, she hesitated, as guests, not family. There was something in her voice, not desperation, not manipulation. Something more difficult. Humility. I didn't rush my answer. Well, I said, the resort's open year-round. We have a standard booking process. That's fair, she replied. I could hear a child in the background, probably Nora, the youngest, asking for help with homework. I'm not asking to undo anything, Dana added. I just want to start on different footing, if that's something you'd even consider. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. After we hung up, I stepped outside. The river was quiet, low and silver under the early dusk, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was holding my breath, waiting for an apology that never came. I felt like I was standing at the start of something else entirely. The dock creaked softly as the kids paddled past in bright orange canoes, their laughter skipping over the water like stones. I stood near the railing with a warm loaf of cinnamon bread in my hands, still steaming from the new bakery kitchen. The scent of brown sugar and vanilla filled the air. We added it last month, just one small oven and a little window that opens toward the path. Every morning the guests line up early, holding coffee mugs and wearing sweaters. And every morning I get to say, "You're just in time." Near the fire pit, two of my staff, Talia and Shay, were helping an elderly couple settle into their chairs. Both single moms. Both hired not out of pity, but because I knew they'd pour heart into this place. They've done more than that. They've made it hum. The tiny library's done too. Just a converted shed with cozy lights and beanbags. Children curl up with picture books while their parents kayak or nap in the hammocks. And at the gate, right where the gravel meets the main road, hangs a new sign, hand-painted in soft, clear lettering. No need to ask. You belong here if you know how to treat people. I didn't paint it for Ellis or Dana or the cousins who stayed silent for 7 years. I painted it for the neighbor who brought me soup during chemo. For the retired teacher who left a handwritten thank you note after her stay. For the postman who told his sister about Wildflower Bend and brought us 3 new bookings. I painted it for me. Ellis stood on this porch yesterday, hands in his pockets, words caught in his throat. I didn't rush him. I offered coffee and we sat, but I didn't open any doors that weren't mine to open. He said he missed me. I said I hoped that was true. Then I handed him a room brochure, like I would with anyone else. This morning, I watched him check out. He left a note tucked under the mug. You built something real. I see that now. I closed the door behind him and turned toward the sound of laughter, where my people already were. The kids were collecting pebbles near the dock, comparing shapes, pretending they were treasure hunters. The sun was high, the air smelled like river mint, and a heron lifted off from the reeds, gliding low over the water. I stood there a long time, feeling the warmth of everything I'd built wrap around me, quiet, steady, alive. I thought of all the years I had waited for someone else to make room for me, for a chair at their table, for a space in their car, for an invitation that never came. And I realized maybe the trick isn't finding people who make room for you. It's learning to build the kind of place where you no longer have to ask, where you are the room, and where, if anyone ever knocks, you get to decide whether to open the door.